and slam that bell. Please do right now because we got a lot of great things going on. And one is the Shure SM7B giveaway. And all you have to do, man, subscribe, ring that bell, type down there as to why you love the Shure microphone, and get entered in, man. But tonight I wanted to talk about what's in your mic locker. And I say that because there's so many great mics out there, and I truly believe it all starts with the instrument first and then the microphone. And by doing that, you're kind of starting, you're kind of your weakest link in the chain, and you don't want any weak links in the chain, especially when you're recording. You know, you always want a really good instrument, a good player, and and then it continues from there. It goes from the instrument to the microphone, through the mic cable to the preamp, and then to either a compressor or a lot of times straight to whatever medium you're recording that on. Hang on one second, guys. I want to see if I can't bring somebody in. See if I can get this to work here. And before we kind of get started, so chill out with me one moment. And we're going to put this in here. See if I can get that in there like that. And let's see here. Let's chat. We're going to try this again, man. One more time. One more time. Copy. We're going to paste it in here, brother. And we're going to paste it like that. Send it up in there. Okay, yeah. So yeah, man, it always starts with the microphone, the instrument, the microphone cable, which is very imperative whenever you're recording. I know for many years I had lacked on microphone cables, and there's nothing worse than having a bad cable to deal with. So what I ended up doing was going out and getting in touch with Monster Cable and having them specially design the lengths of cable that I needed for my preamps to my compressors. And I want to tell you something. So when I was doing my tracking, I noticed a world of difference just by putting in a nice big Pro 1000 monster cable. I mean, I could tell the difference overnight, how much better it sounded on my tracking and listening back to it. And then from there, it pretty much goes to a compressor and out of there. If you choose to compress before you print, I like to compress, but there are a lot of pros out there that don't like to compress before they print. But I kind of like to have an idea, or at least run it through it, kind of tickle the meters a little bit, and especially if you have a singer with a lot of dynamics, you probably want to compress. But then there's people that don't. Um, but microphones, what microphones do you have in your mic locker, and why do a lot of the professionals having a lot of microphones in their mic locker? And that raises a question as to how important and imperative it is to have many different microphones, from pencil microphones to dynamic microphones and condensers. And all these microphones play a large role on the scale as to how you're going to actually track and do your recording. And so you might have a singer that sounds really, really good on uh, a condenser microphone, but then not sound so good on a dynamic, and then vice versa. You might have a singer who sounds really, really good on a beautiful Neumann U87, something of that nature, but then um, doesn't really sound that good on that mic, but sounds great on a dynamic microphone. You might want to put her through the SM7B, or you might want to put her through the Electro Voice RE20. So having a nice mic cabinet uh, is a beautiful thing because you want to be able to choose the right microphone for the right instrument and the right voice. So I really like, the dynamic microphones are really kind of overlooked a lot in the recording studio on the vocals. Just I'm not really sure why, but for some people, they really do sound best on them. Um, People who really have a pure voice and a real who comes to mind is oh, it was a lady in the '60s, man. She sang all those wonderful songs with her brother and the Carpenters, Karen Carpenter. So Karen Carpenter to me has a pure, beautiful voice, and she probably needs to be put behind a beautiful condenser mic, something maybe a Neumann U87 or U47 and something of that nature, because you want to capture the purity of that. Now, someone like Bob Dylan or Tom Petty or myself, uh, who can kind of sing around that and um, can kind of sing not the purest way, but does really well with overtones. Can get by with singing through a dynamic microphone or a condenser microphone. So I've just it's really imperative and really important that you guys have a nice collection in your mic locker. That way, you can always choose what microphone is good for the instrument, or at least have some at your uh, at at hand, so to speak. But I wanted to show you this really cool microphone right here, man. This is the Electro Voice 642. Now, I have two of these microphones, and this is pretty much a shotgun microphone, and it's pretty much pointing at the subject or in the area. And all these little ribs right here reject the sound from behind it. And so it's pretty much a directional microphone. And what you see right here is so you just shoot and aim. And in that vicinity over there, it's going to pick up really, really well. And everything back here, it's going to reject the sound. But I actually found two of these. I actually had three, and I ended up selling my third one, but I really wanted to have two for stereo recording across the stage. But this microphone came out in the '60s, and when I got this microphone, I wasn't for sure if it was actually going to sound good at all because it was so old. But it's built like a tank, man. And I got this thing. It sounded great, and it sounds good. They use this microphone on a lot of the sitcoms in the '60s, like I Dream of Jeannie, The Hee Haw Show, Bonanza, and a lot of the other movies like that. They used this microphone. But whenever I got it, I wasn't really sure if I was going to enjoy this mic or if it even worked. And if it didn't work, how was I going to get it repaired? But I bought it for a real nice price. I thought it was a fair price, and put it on an acoustic guitar. I think that was the first thing I mic'd with it was an acoustic guitar. I was sitting across the room, and I pointed it right down at the body of the guitar. And wow, what a realism this microphone has! Just sounds really, really good. And I think one night I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to open up with this mic, and although I have done some other videos with this mic in it, I think I want to talk about this mic again just because I love it so much. And I am going to put it, do two microphones, two of these behind me, you know, and that way you guys can see both of them. And I'll probably do an XY type thing. And, but really just with one, it picks up fine. But I love this microphone, and I say that any microphone is a good microphone if it works. They all have their special things about them that makes them special, and their bumps and curves and roll offs and whatnot. And you can never have a bad microphone if it don't, as long as it works. And so, I'm sure it's right for some instrument that you have out there. Maybe you just haven't tried it. I know back in the day, man, if you had a Shure SM57 or if you have a Shure SM58, you were doing pretty good. You were doing pretty good to have those two microphones in your setup. But having a good condenser microphone is very important as well. As you can see, I have the Telefunken back here that I really, really love this mic too. I actually like doing a lot of my podcasts through that as well. But with that microphone, man, it really picks up everything in the room and around the room and outside and everything else. So it's kind of nice grabbing my SM7B here and doing my podcast with it because it's a directional mic, and um, and it's only going to pick up what's right in front of me. Now my AK-47, the one you see behind me right there, it actually has 9 polar patterns on it, and all, well, it's a nice mic. So I think I'm gonna start doing some Omni stuff with that mic, man. I think I'm gonna start experimenting with that thing and try to do some nice recordings using my omnidirectional polar patterner on that mic. But it's really neat having different microphones. I know at one time, I want to say about 15 years ago, I sought out all the, I mentioned this too in another video, but I sought out all the old microphones that I could. Everything from Western Electric, Electro Voice, EVs, and Shure's, and sought out all these different microphones. And I had a really nice collection, and everything that I had worked beautifully. Believe it or not, you can try some of these old pawn shops around and find some really nice stuff. I know I found a lot of really cool Shure microphones and Electro Voice microphones in some old pawn shops in Louisiana, and really, really struck it rich there, man. But add to your collection, and then let me know what you guys are using out there. What kind of microphones is in your mic locker? Because it's just neat to know what people are using. I like the SM81 a lot too. It's really a nice, beautiful sounding pencil microphone. It sounds outstanding on acoustic guitars, and I really like that mic a lot. And you should add that to your arsenal as well, man. And use that one a lot as well. Now, just recently, I got this AEA ribbon microphone, and I love this mic very much. And so I've just been really into that mic. It sounds really, really good, and it's gonna be a great mic to do some crooning on and up close and personal stuff. And I can't wait to start tracking actually with that mic. And yes, I need to. I've got a lot of my writing done, and I've been rehearsing a lot, and I just really need to lay down some tracks and team up and get her done. But this is my new edition right here. I want to tell you a little story. So I ordered a T-shirt from AEA, and and it hasn't made it here yet. And it was supposed to be here Wednesday. And my nephew said, "Man, just did you do the tracking on?" I said, "Yeah, man, it was supposed to be here Wednesday." And he said, "Well, give them a call because a lot of people have been losing their mail." So I said, "All right, man, let me let you go before it's 5 o'clock. And let me give them a call, see if I can get hold of somebody." So I called the company, man, and an older gentleman, answered the phone, and I'm talking with him and telling him my situation as to why, uh, or asking him, that I haven't received my T-shirt and I'd love to get it. I can't wait to get it. It's got this microphone on the front of it, on the front of the T-shirt, and actually, when I bought this microphone, I was wanting that T-shirt, but they didn't have it in stock. And so, anyway, I called. The guy was real nice. I was real nice, and we started talking. We'll come to find out it was Wes Dooley himself, the creator of this microphone. And I do want to say he's such a really cool guy, man. A very, very interesting character, person he is, and very knowledgeable, knows his history. And I must have spent about 2 hours on the phone talking to this man who made this microphone. So I thought I'd share that with you guys, man. I had a really good time meeting him and talking with him, and just a wonderful person, man. Um, but yeah, he said, "Let me know if you don't get your shirt, man, and we'll take care of you." But just made me feel at home talking to him, man. Really good guy. But yeah, this is my latest edition, and I think the next microphone that I'm gonna get to add to my collection, I was really thinking about. I really got all I need right now. I've got a nice ribbon. I've got a beautiful condenser. I've got a great dynamic. I've got two beautiful shotgun mics. Um, I've even got some old Turners that are really cool for like harmonica. Sound really good on harmonica, and and so I've really got a nice collection. Not as many microphones as I used to have. I let go a lot of my old vintage microphones several years back during the move, but I think I'm gonna get back into collecting some more. And but my new edition, what I was thinking about getting y'all was probably the Shure KSM 313, and that's another ribbon microphone that Shure makes. And I've just been hearing a lot of great things for some pros about that microphone. And hey, Dennis, what's a going on? I see you
Hey,
there, man.
can you hear
What
me?
what's a happening?
All right.
I hear you fine tonight.
All right, then it wasn't us.
I really do think it had to do with something me starting the daggum video early, man.
Yeah, it was probably just the order that we ordered. We started things. So good. All right. We move along.
Yeah, man. Can you hear me okay over there?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Perfectly.
Perfect, man. So now that I have you on, Dennis, I want to ask you a question because you were shooting some text at me, man,
Hmm.
and I was digging everything you were throwing, and I couldn't really look at everything as fast as you were texting me.
Sure, it's difficult, with the medium that we use with the text and everything. Absolutely.
But I want to know, man, what's some of your favorite microphones that you enjoy using a lot?
Well, like many of us, we start from a place where we really don't have a lot of money to spend on mics and we, and also the knowledge. I remember being at a place where I thought like, wow, man, there's so many microphones. How do you even remember all these names, and what they do?
Right,
But
right,
little by little, you start finding, even with the meager means and the cheaper microphones, if you use them enough, you know exactly what they can and cannot do.
right.
And all along, I always picked up, whatever kind of microphone made an impression in me, regardless of if whether it was something that people regarded as good or not. Um, so I have, I think I've come along with some odd ends that didn't necessarily happen to be things that people use a lot that I've used and they have excellent results for me.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
also other microphones that people, at least in different times of in our industry, used for other things, and now they're not used for those sort of things. But I keep using them that way.
Right, right. So, do you find yourself still using the SM57,
Oh
miking
yeah,
cabs and whatnot?
oh yeah.
Yeah,
57's always a flavor.
right,
It's a nice reference to have. You know what they're going to sound.
right,
You know
right,
you know what the rough image of those are going to be, because again, the source is never the same, or the intent is never the same. Even if you're just a rock guy, I
right,
personally would never approach anything exactly the same way.
right,
You
right.
really should listen to your sources and see, okay, what if you happen to be involved or be able to have a hand in the production, obviously it's great. But if you're just engineering, it's still almost your own responsibility to make sure that you are as true to the music, more than your own ego.
Right.
You should never have, sure, you should have true and tried methods of doing things, but never, I would say, approach everything in the same manner.
Hmm, hmm.
You know,
So do you find it important that someone doing the tracking part, do you find it important that they have a vast array of different microphones to try out at any given time, so that because every amp or whatever's different? And do you find yourself that it's nice to have that as far as different mics to try out? Okay, I lost your sound. Did you do something just then? Yeah. Did you do something just then? Uh oh. Can you hear me? I don't know. No, I can't hear you. Okay, so Dennis popped in and popped out real quick. I don't know if this platform that we're using here is new to both of us, but I think it's something in the platform that's kind of been hanging up. They say he's going to try to get in again. We're going to see what happens. Oh, now I hear you fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's okay too.
It interrupts my audio, so
Oh,
uh,
okay, okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
put a let me
Okay.
actually put a in do not disturb thing. So cool,
Right, right.
cool. So no distractions. So
Perfect.
yeah, I was saying, yeah, it really depends on a lot of it is on the production, and really our role is to take a step back and listen to the music and serve it. You know,
Mhm. Did you do were you a part in that as far as setting up the doing the tracking stuff in the studio, or
for
who
what?
actually, well, just mic placement, you,
For what?
like working with Mick
Oh, with
GUZOWSKI.
Mick, you know that I gave you some of the some of the tracks I shared with you.
Right.
The songs that I recorded in the studio, I had a direct, basically, seat into how he does things. You know,
Wow.
he was there the whole time. He showed us how to do it. I can tell you guys the whole setup.
Wow.
It's indelible in my mind.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, dual snare microphones. We had, for instance, he had a U87 on the inside of the kick,
Okay.
and then he had, I think it was a TLM one. No, sorry, a TLM 170 on the outside of the kick with no head, no outside head,
Right.
and then just outside of that, we had. I'm sure you've heard of the sub kick
Yes.
thing. All right.
Yes.
Before that, that came out of people using the low end driver of an NS10 as a microphone, which
Right.
is what he prefers, and we tested them all those things together, and still the SM, the speaker raw was the best sound. So
Wow.
he likes to use that, and then cover the whole thing with packing blankets.
Nice.
We make kind of like a tunnel, put a chair at the end, so it kind of makes like a frame, and it makes this resonant type of really cool thing. And everything is used in a very subtle manner. Nothing is really ever overly woofy. You heard the result,
Oh,
so
wow. Yeah.
that's really a lot of what it was. In fact, the picture that I sent you with the drums,
Yeah.
those were the drums for that session.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Mhm.
I've never used that microphone, but it's basically just a big speaker that sets up upright,
Well,
correct?
it's a 6 inch
Okay.
woofer. You see the NS10 speaker. It's
Right.
that white cone speaker. So
Right.
we just mounted it on a mic stand with a couple of cable ties,
Mhm.
and soldered a mic connector with the two leads, and called it a day.
Beautiful.
You put, I think, I forget what we put it through, but it was probably an API,
Okay, preamp.
if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. Yeah.
Wow. What did y'all use on the snare? Do you remember what
In
y'all?
terms of microphones, it was
Yeah.
probably just straight 57s.
Wow. One on the
Yeah.
top, one on the bottom, or
Yep.
just yeah.
Yeah. One top, one bottom, just kind of facing just slightly off center. And then, because also again in this case the band is kind of mixed between rock and reggae, so it needed to have that vibe and that signature that goes back to when that music was really became popular.
Yeah.
And then the bottom just kind of getting a lot of the sizzle of the snare,
Wow.
but
And
for
then
taste.
yeah. So two overheads
Yeah, two
or
overheads.
yeah. Did y'all pan XY or just straight over the kit like that, or how'd you?
He makes it kind of like a spaced pair.
Okay, and then
Nothing really special. Yeah, it was mostly
pan
just to
hard.
get ambience from, not necessarily pan and ride. And actually, that was my mix. I mixed that. I mean, he
Okay.
helped me engineer it, but he always said that it was all my session. I was like, you're way too, way too nice to say that. Yeah, but it came out the way it came out.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was all basically his advice and following his guidance, and it panned
Yeah.
out big time. And the
Well,
monitoring too, which was different. For doing that monitoring, we happened to have as many tannoy speakers as we needed, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we can do this with these speakers for tracking." And I was like, "Okay." So that ended up being, the SRM monitor, which is in a dual concentric 10-inch driver, and in a wood cabinet, and then another one on top of that, biamp together,
nice.
and that gives you a pretty strong presence and greater sensitivity when you're
Yeah.
when you're tracking, especially when you're trying to track with something that has a lot of punch. You need to have that same punch inherent to your monitoring environment.
Hmm.
I'll be
And
right there with you, buddy.
okay. Yeah, man. Yeah, I was curious to know about, how some of those sessions went and if y'all actually did uh to where you had the other musicians within the studio. So it might be just
Oh
the
well, they were all there for that
yeah,
session. Yeah, we
yeah.
insist on that. That's something that I think anyone should insist on, if at all possible.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, from then, obviously planning on the voiceovers and everything else, it's a matter of choice.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, at all cost, we insisted on first having a band that was tight. The music was compelling, and that sounded ready to be at that level, and musicianship that was able to keep up with that level of production.
Right. Right.
Because yeah, it could have been, say, anybody, but it takes a special type of musician to feel at ease in that environment.
Yeah, so out of curiosity, how many microphones would you say that was set out on one session?
Oh,
20?
one session. Oh, we had at least, for basic tracks. Let's see. I'm thinking drums here. That was at least 12 that I can think of. I think we have at least three on bass, and we had two guitar players with three mics each. So definitely over 20 tracks. And one, we only did but one scratched lead vocal. Everything else was just done after the fact.
Wow, and then she or he would come back in after a decent I mean, after the mix was done
Yeah,
and
we
laid up.
they would come over and hang out because they were from Boston, and they would
Okay.
come down and hang out for from like a Thursday night through Sunday night type of thing,
Nice.
and then they go back and come back a couple weeks later or the week after, whenever there was time for them to do that. And
Nice.
obviously that mic wasn't working. That's obviously why they all also came through the weekends, because he wouldn't normally work through the weekend
Yeah.
unless there was a
Right.
big coin involved,
Right. Right.
or bigger than he's used to.
Right. Yeah,
Cheers,
man.
everybody.
Yeah, cheers, man. I was going to ask you too. Have you ever used a D12 on the bass cabinet? And it's
Absolutely.
yeah, do you like that? Have you I mean,
It's a very distinct sound. And,
okay.
when it comes to microphones, it's obviously, yeah, the capsule and the
Right.
design of the capsule and what it does, because it's a moving coil capsule. It's not a dynamic element, so it's a little bit of a different dynamic.
Mhm.
But also the impedance is greater. It's a 200 ohm impedance microphone, so it gives you a little bit of a greater detail, at least in the and the business end of what we hear.
Mhm.
And then the fact that those bigger diaphragms, in essence, hear a larger amount of the lower signal.
Mhm. And so that's why, the big speakers were used on the kick and whatnot is because they can hear that signal, correct? I
Yeah,
mean,
they
yeah.
basically detect a greater amount of the signal that that particular instrument is putting out.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's
Same
awesome.
with when we were talking about the FET 48. It's
Mhm.
very popular on bass cabinets also,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
kick drums and things like that. But I've seen it used on on vocals as well.
Mhm. Any nice ribbon mics in the room that you could think of? Maybe perhaps
Did
show
we
me?
have any ribbons there? We only had the RCA 44.
Oh, nice.
That at that point, yeah, Mick had just purchased it a few years before. He had a 44 and one like these, the BX, also.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were really nice.
and they sounded like they were made yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah,
he always, he got stuff that was in good condition. He didn't really mess around with that.
right.
He wasn't into rebuilding anything. He's still not.
Right.
We used the 44 on guitars, on one of the guitars.
Okay, I bet you that sounded good, huh?
Yeah,
I, li- I
it's part of that track that you heard.
yeah, yeah. I really like the ribbon sound. It has a realistic sound to it,
Hmm.
and at least to my ears, whenever I put it in a room or whatever, it actually sounds like
Hmm.
you're sitting in front of the drum kit, or
All
you're
right,
you,
well,
you're.
here's a good one. The acoustic track that I sent you, the Cloudy Sky,
Yes, I love it.
that has the vocal has a cheap ribbon mic on it.
Okay. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was just a chance thing because at first I was like, oh yeah, we're going to use all these nice condenser mics on him.
Hmm.
And ends up that the last time I worked with him was about 15 years ago in terms of recording. And his voice has changed a little bit and it's
Hmm.
a little bit grainier. So
Hmm.
the Neumann just didn't cut it.
Yeah.
I also had this, was it not a Lundvall? I forget the brand name. It was some new brand name from Norway or something like that. And it also didn't sound that great. It's just too shiny.
Hmm.
And
Kind of.
I was like, and on a whim, they went out on a break outside, and I put up, it's a CAD D82.
Yes.
And when I bought it, they were still really cheap. I got it for like $90. And I decided to use the polar pattern, which is a figure eight, as part of the sound. So I split the difference facing it towards his mouth, and the other side was facing down towards the guitar. So I picked up another portion of the guitar, and that's part of the guitar sound that you hear,
Yeah.
which was also picked up with my older Altec 201B microphone, which is
Sounds
it's a condenser.
That sounds beautiful. That recording sounds so realistic. And so,
Hmm.
didn't you tell me about it? He wanted to take that mic with him or something. He fell in
Well,
love with that mic.
He did. He bought it off of me,
Wow.
and
He's
they're pretty easy to find. You can still buy them. They're listed a lot more than they are, but you can buy them under $200, and they sound great. And if you put them with a really good mic, even a decent preamp, they'll sound really good.
Wow. Yeah. So let me ask you, Dennis, how long would a session? I mean, when y'all would work in the studio
Hmm.
with these, big time artists, how long typically would a session last? All day
Well,
from morning to.
it really does depend. With Mick, I never did only with those tracking sessions at his house. Actually, I did do. We did a private session in Rochester for an artist up there, and he brought in Steve Gadd to play his drums.
Okay.
And we went to another buddy of his mansion and had all this equipment brought in. We set the drums in this gigantic living room. They had all these manufacturers brought different drum sets for Steve to try. Um, Steve Gadd, I'm sure you know who he is. He plays with everybody, with
Mm-hmm.
Clapton, James Taylor, Paul Simon, etc., etc. Um, and so we recorded. And so yeah, I saw that. And generally, really much for everybody, first you're going to consider the artist's schedule and what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
If it's somebody likes to work late in the day or late at night or until late in the morning, you start with that.
Okay.
Uh, if not, from my perspective, when most everyone respects the 9 to 5 thing.
Right.
With exceptions, obviously, there's always a contingency of people getting a little bit more moolah if you work a little longer. There's always premium for hours after
And
10,
right.
so
And
it's not a problem.
but did y'all pretty much have it all set up? I mean, so when
Oh
they
yeah,
got there,
yeah. When they
you
got there,
didn't have
everything
to.
was ready to go.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right, right.
all that stuff. You normally set up a couple of meetings beforehand, even if it's not a visited visit from the artist.
Hmm.
You at least have some kind of an advance of what they're going to need or how you're going to do the setup. And so when the minute they walk in, they have to do is just pop their water and start. you know,
and start working.
or
Yeah.
get their coffee happening,
Wow. And
you
so
know.
would y'all just like try to bust through a couple of songs or just work on one song or how did it depend on the vibe of
Yeah, it
everything?
depends on the vibe, but generally it's just you know, if you're set up ready to go, you know, that you would ideally know what your how your gear reacts, you know,
Mhm.
even before, you know, with a nominal signal. So you set up for that. When people are starting to tune, you know, you make sure that you're in the controls, listening or PFLing and adjusting your controls or getting ready to adjust if you see that something's going to become a little bit more dynamic than you expected to, so you can back up your gains or something like that. So it's
Yeah.
just a matter of, you know, being ready and alert all the
Yeah.
time.
Wow. And so so it is important to have uh a nice mic locker, correct? I mean you would you need some microphones and
Yeah,
you need some mics.
it's your main tool. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're a recording engineer or you're engineering sessions,
Mhm.
even if you don't do them for yourself, you're doing for somebody else. It's you're doing the music a disservice if you don't put out your best product, and you're doing yourself a disservice.
Right.
You know, it's your reputation, and that's how people listen to your work.
So I was actually the picture that I sent you earlier. Can you guess whose microphones those were?
Um,
It's actually going to be on my thumbnail whenever I leave this. I'm going to put it up on my
you're talking about the
all the
shotguns.
all the Neumanns. All the Neumanns in that photo that I sent you by email on your message.
Oh, I don't
If
recall.
you yeah, okay. So if you just had to guess anyway, it's Bill Putnam's.
Oh, that was Bill's collection. Okay,
That was his collection.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, go
Beautiful.
figure.
Yeah, exactly. All the way up to the U87, I mean 47. I mean, he
Hmm.
had some really nice mics, man. If you get a chance, check out that photo I
I
sent you,
will. I
man.
will. I will. I will.
Yeah, man, all the pencil mics. I mean, just I looked I found that picture and I was like, "Oh my gosh, look at this collection, man."
No, back then, if you had access to microphones, it was the golden age, man.
You know, I really believe in that. I really believe in that, Dennis. I believe that that's where it starts from. You know,
Hmm.
first the musician or the instrument, correct? And then the microphone.
Hmm.
That's the next thing in the chain, man.
Well,
So,
that and the preamplification obviously is really important too. Then that we now we know that, and those are the three things that haven't changed.
right. So,
Musicians still have to do music, and they have to be creative, and they have to put out the vibe.
mhm,
Microphones haven't changed, and since their inception, mostly.
yeah,
Really, what's changing is, you know, the quality of the components. Maybe some of the newer designs are pretty exciting, and the consistency. You know, microphones now last more than ever, but a lot of them not necessarily have the best quality. Now
yeah,
that you
yes.
know,
Especially with the capsules and whatever. It seems like but
yeah,
I was going to ask you something, man. Is it important that the impedance be right to the microphone on the preamp?
ideally.
Yeah,
But again, with Ohm's law, just as long as you don't go under the spec impedance, it's really not that big of a deal.
yeah,
And if you have a decent quality preamp, the, you know, it's really not that noticeable, especially on a if you have a high quality microphone and a good source.
yeah. What was one of your favorite preamps that you like to use in the studio?
Oh, there's really so many, but I would say that I had the opportunity to become very acquainted with. I would say Neves 1272, 12281s, Calrex, NAPIs also, 212s.
Hmm. Really, really, really clean, clean, clean. What
Yeah,
about
very
what?
clean, lots of gain,
Mhm.
very sweet sounding. I mean, again, I was blessed that my employer had pretty much, you know, he actually again, you didn't know this. He was very old friends with the actual um, Brent Averill.
Okay, wow.
You've
Oh,
heard of those
yeah,
units, Brent Averill.
yes.
Well, what's available now? That's who bought him out.
Nice. Wow.
Brent retired. Actually, Brent passed away a few years back, but he retired. I mean, I would say at least 15 years ago.
Wow.
He did really well. I mean, he did that for many years, but he was also obviously a tech. He worked on everybody's gear
Yeah.
behind the scenes, and he came to a point he retired, bought himself a motorhome, and he traveled all over the place. He used to come
Beautiful.
and hang out and park outside the Mix garage, and he'd hang out there for a week and hang out with us.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
Just hang out and chill, huh?
Yeah.
So, have you ever worked with any Avalon stuff or
Yep.
no?
Yeah, I have.
Do you
They're
like
really
those
nice.
stuff?
They're super
Yeah.
clean, super high gain. In fact, a buddy of mine that I have worked with was asking me about some of that gear recently. He
Mhm.
purchased, I think it's the V5 or the V4
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
I've seen that picture.
Yeah,
Man.
I
Yeah.
was asking. He was asking me yesterday how to insert it into a session. I was like, oh yeah, well, it's really easy. So we did it, and it's all good today.
Yeah, that's the mic pre. That's not just the DI. Because don't they have one that's just the DI?
Right. This one
Yeah.
has the DI also, and it's got a couple of filter functions and things. It's
Yeah.
a very simple unit, but if even if you just want to insert it on a channel, and sizzle up your signal a bit, it's nice to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had mentioned to me, man. You had mentioned to me that you're digging Universal Audio.
Hmm.
What?
The little bit that I have used is amazing, and I can't wait to get my hands on more. They have a few things that are very exciting, just in terms of what they do for me in the live end of things.
Hmm.
But also the fact that I can just take that same unit and use it in my studio, no problem. So
Yeah.
it's really nice.
That 610 pre is really good, man.
Hmm. I
Really.
can't wait to get my hands on some of that.
Yeah, the 610 pre just really sounds good.
Hmm.
They made the 2108, which
Hmm.
was the solid state. I don't think they're making that anymore, man.
No, another gear they're starting to
You know?
migrate away from. I'm sure they're going to have some a new generation of really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt it. They always seem to save face at the last minute.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really neat some of those old tube preamps. So, what about Summit Audio? Have you
Summit's
ever
great. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Summit, their compressors and are incredible. Their preamps, so it's kind of like a Neve thing, but slightly different.
Yeah.
Yeah, no complaints about Summit Audio.
And then what about Drummer? Have you ever worked with any out of
Drummer's
Drummer?
really nice stuff. Their gates have always been have a good reputation. I used to see them a lot more when in the early '90s,
Okay.
before digital consoles came out and live sound. You
Yeah.
would see a lot of drummer equipment and racks. A
What
lot of EQs and a lot of compressors and gates.
Okay, so didn't they make the Drummer 1960? Is
Hmm.
that correct?
Yeah.
Did that come out in 1960 or in that era?
No, that was just
The
the
name of the
model.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
okay, okay,
model just to kind of denote, that
okay.
it's a vintage retro thing.
Okay, I got you. I got
Yeah,
you. But that compressor was used a lot in the 70s, wasn't it? Or
yeah,
no?
yeah. But
Okay.
again, those are all just based on stuff that came in the '60s, but with transistors.
Yeah.
That's why they
Yeah.
have those throwback names.
Yeah. And then Manley, have you ever worked with any Manley gear?
Yep. Again, Mick had a lot of manly stuff, so it was always kind of like, okay, what do I try today?
So the big thing here is it truly matching up the right microphone with the right preamp, with the right instrument? I mean,
I mean, there's formulas. I don't know that there's a right anything.
right.
There's things that work and things that don't work.
And that's the starting point, is
And
what you're
that's a starting point. But the minute you move it an inch, you're like, oh, wait a minute.
right. Isn't it funny how temperature and all that changes
Hmm.
everything?
And a lot of times, I've made the point to challenge myself, even if I'm home and not doing anything really, I don't have anything to do. I'll do experiments and challenge myself and record things in a different manner.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That sounds great, man. I really wanted to get on here tonight. I was having problems with this platform here the other night. I'm so glad you got on here tonight, man.
No, we did it twice, back to back, no problem.
I know. So look, man, I want to do another thing coming up soon. Whenever you have time,
Absolutely.
let's get on here and talk about, because I really want to talk about your experience in the studio with Mick
Hmm.
Guzowski and Michael and the 20-year thing.
Oh, yeah,
And
that was
yeah,
fun.
yeah,
That was fun.
I want to do that. I'm,
Absolutely, whenever
oh,
you want.
okay. Well, I'm gonna hit you up, man. I'll call you and we'll set up a time, right?
Very good.
And we'll get this thing happening, man. Because
Excellent.
I know all my subscribers out there are gonna love it, and are gonna love everything you have to
Oh, we
say.
got a lot. I mean, I have a few really nice session stories that we can do.
Okay, perfect.
I did work with other really prominent engineers as well on a role of a recording engineer, and that was another really nice bundle of experiences.
Yeah. So before we go here, do you plan on after this pandemic thing smooths out? Do you plan on doing a lot of more live shows? Because I know you like doing live shows as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of my income is from doing live shows. You know, like I told you before, the pandemic broke me off of a tour with the Fab Four as a monitor engineer. So
Wow.
I imagine that they're going to call me back. But other than that, I also have a lot of corporate work as a live mixer. So you know, we're going to be back as strong as ever, if not busier than ever before.
I think so too. I got this feeling. I got this
Hmm.
feeling, man. It's coming, and when it's gonna hit, it's gonna snowball, and we're all gonna be just running crazy because there's gonna be so much work.
Well, not everyone has been fortunate to be able to stick it out and remained an audio engineer. A lot of
Hmm.
people had to close their companies. A lot of people had to take another gig that they might not necessarily be able to leave. A lot of
Hmm.
people, unfortunately, even lost their lives.
Yeah.
So, and like us, it's just a lot of people.
Right.
So we're going to see a different, landscape when we get back on it.
Right. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We're talking. I can't wait to talk about more about those Shure mics.
Oh man, hey, yeah,
Yeah.
they're all good,
Well,
right?
you asked about those ribbon mics,
I
and
did.
like I told you, those were not original Shure designs. You know,
Hmm.
there was this company called Crowley and Tripp, and they made those two microphones. Those were their only two models. I
Wow.
forget what they called them. They weren't, the 313 or the 353. They were called El Diablo. Like, that's what one. The
Yes.
little one
Yes.
was called El Diablo,
Okay.
and they were gonna close. And I think Shure just bought them out because they'd had a really good reputation on their Shure mics, on those ribbon mics, and Shure had no ribbon mics before
Hmm.
that.
Yeah. Have
And
you
so,
ever?
mm,
I was just gonna say, have you held one in your hand?
oh, I had both of them
Oh,
for
nice.
over 3-4 months.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the couple of tunes that I sent you that were my stuff, a few of the instruments I recorded on with those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And that guitar track, the
Yeah,
guitar.
a lot
Yeah.
of all the main guitars were done with pencil condenser, the old AKG style,
Hmm.
which were my main really nice mics for a long time. I have another track that I can send you that I was really happy with, that I used 81s, Shure 81s for everything,
Really.
and my bathroom too. This is one of the old track of mine.
I love that microphone, man. The
No,
81.
they work great, and again, it's all I had at that point. It was one
Right.
of my first decent condensers that I had.
I know. I love that. I mentioned that earlier in the video. I love that
Hmm.
microphone, man. That was yeah. What the big question is so what year did Shure buy those ribbon microphones? Do you know?
This would be going back to, let's see, when I was with Rob. I would say maybe 2003, 2004, perhaps.
Okay. Okay. Because yeah, it seems like that's when I started seeing a lot of the ads on that mic and
Hmm.
whatnot. But and then I seen a lot of people using that microphone on late night shows and whatever on the
Hmm.
guitar cab.
Hmm. No, they're very well known guitar trick these days.
Nice, nice.
That with the Royer one, the Royers makes a really nice one. The R100, which is it's, it's not a budget mic because it's a really good quality ribbon mic, but
Hmm.
it's a lot easier on the pocket than their, like the 122, which is almost a $1,200 microphone.
Yeah, exactly. And then the AKG, what do you think about their stuff?
Well, the
As
new
far as
stuff it's really not that great. You don't have anything decent after 1978,
hmm
really,
yeah,
um, because really that's when the stuff was still being made in Austria and being designed by Austrian people. And after that, the company, like many other companies, switched ownership, and for better or worse, things change, and the microphone quality suffered.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Even from 60s through the 70s, the quality changes. I have a few of my microphones are from one into the next era, and you see the changes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily bad ones, but beyond that, they did become a little bit of a lesser brand. Um, Pretty much when they stopped making stuff in Austria, things went downhill.
Right. Right.
So anything that you got that doesn't have an Austrian stamp, don't bother.
Don't bother. Yeah. So those old vintage mics, if you can get your hands on them, they're worth hanging on to.
Hmm. Yeah, I
So
made a point a while back to start looking. I mean, I'm not religious, but if I were, it'd be microphones. Every 2 weeks or whenever I can, I look
mhm.
at all the online and search for a number of different things. And if I can afford to get it, I get it.
Yeah.
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 In fact,
So
once I did an event for eBay, and I bought something on eBay while I was mixing the event.
really.
Hmm.
Nice. Nice. I was getting a lot of stuff on eBay too, and I'm telling you, man, I really didn't run across anything that didn't work. In other
Well,
words,
if,
I
if
really
you know
got some good I got some
if you
good stuff.
know if the seller has a good listing, and they do a good description of what they have, and you know what you're looking after yourself,
Mhm.
you can't go wrong with eBay. Free shipping, you can't beat that.
Right.
And finding a lot of these things for me are treasures.
Right. Oh,
These
yes.
microphones are regardless of what you pay, a lot of these things have, there are tools, and that you know are
So
very
I
important.
did I
Yeah,
did
look
you
at
see
that thing.
did you see
I've never seen one in that condition.
look at this. I'm gonna get it up close to you, man. I
I
don't
can
know.
almost smell it. That thing looks amazing.
Can you see?
Yeah, it's
Look,
shiny. I've never seen one in that condition. All I have to do is look at your box. The box is it's immaculate.
it's immaculate.
Yeah,
Okay. And I got actually
two of them. You
well, I
said,
do have two, but I
yeah.
had three. And I
Wow.
let it go. I just didn't feel like I needed it, but I
Hmm.
always felt like, well, I need to have two. If I want to do any type of
At
stereo.
least two is a good number.
Yes. But look at it, man. No dings here. I'm trying
Hmm.
to get it in there where you can see it. Can you see it?
Omni mics are okay to have in threes,
There you go. Right on.
or really, you know,
Right.
non-paired number.
That's right. But I love this mic, man. Hey, when I first got it in, dude, I actually just set it about, I'd say 8 feet from me, kind of at a distance, really,
Hmm.
but just aimed it right there at my guitar at the hole, right past
Nice.
the 12th fret, and man, it just sounded beautiful. It had such a real, it had that realism, you know what I'm talking about because once you
It's a
hear,
presence, yeah.
yeah, once you hear it, you know it. You know what
Hmm.
I'm talking about. And so it just felt like you're right there in the room with it, man. I was
Yes,
like,
sir.
"Daggum, man, I got a gold mine right here, man." And
That's what they go.
so yeah, there are good deals on eBay, and this is living proof right here, man.
Hmm. No, those
Living
things
proof.
have a great, 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 great reputation.
So I actually have the original shock mount
No way.
with the bands that go with this mic.
That's amazing.
That was harder finding than the mic.
I imagine. No, the accessories are really much more difficult.
So that was
I
a
mean, just for my 451 AKG mics, finding those, probably I would say, I think 4 times the time to find all the accessories per mic in
wow,
the condition that I wanted to find them in.
wow,
Because things come along and they're scratched or have like a big serial number scratched. The only one microphone that I got that is actually really ugly condition is this one AKG 460. I got it for really cheap, but the guy for some reason had tried to grind the whole finish on the microphone. So you know how they're black?
yeah, yeah,
This one's brass.
wow.
Yeah, but it works, and it was $60. I was like, okay, it's $60, but it works perfectly.
I wonder what he used to take the paint off. I wonder if it.
I think he tried unsuccess well to some extent successfully a Dremel tool.
Oh wow.
Yeah, with like some kind of abrasive wheel.
Oh wow. So it's got grooves in the metal. You can
Yeah, I
see.
mean it looks like brushed copper, not copper. Like it's like a it's not brass. It's almost reddish brass type thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the body itself is made of some kind of an alloy.
So as long as it works fine
Oh
and
yeah, the
everything,
works one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Who cares what the
Hmm.
aesthetics look like, right? As
No,
long as
and
it.
those preamps are killer. I mean, it's a really clean preamp. It's from the ULS series, which is the ultra linear series of the AKG microphones, and they're supposed to be like the more precise ones. And that's
Mhm.
cool. It's a really cool line because then you have this accessory that you install on the end, and it downsizes the thread, and you can use the capsules of the 451s on it.
Nice. You were talking to me the other
Hmm.
night. If you don't mind mentioning, what company is that you were telling me about that you can actually build your own microphones?
Oh,
And
that's Mike and Mod.
Mike,
Mike and Mod, just the way it sounds.com. I sent you the link,
you
and
did
they have those kits. Um, they run out fast, but they
really?
are some of the best sounding and best looking kits, because that's the thing. So there's a lot of companies out there that have kits, but when you get your kit, it looks like a cheap mic.
Right.
It looks
What
like a
about
Marshall or
right?
something.
What about the housing and the housing, all that? They sell you that too?
That's what I'm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You saw the
yeah.
listing.
Oh
It
yeah, I
looks
did.
exactly like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you're ready to go. You just need to
Hmm.
put it together.
But it's not just the fact that they look really good, but they sound really well, really good too. It will sound like a flea or like a Bach. It's
Okay.
that level of components. It's
Wow.
got very good transformers, very good resistors, very good everything else.
Wow. I
Hmm.
wonder how long it'd probably take an experienced person to put one together. You know,
Oh, you can
to
actually
solder.
see there's videos on YouTube of people building them, I think, and doing demos of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, just look up Mike and Mod demo or something like that. I'll try to look them up and send you a link later.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. It'd be
Hmm.
interesting to know how fast some of these guys that are experienced
Well, there's
that
not that
actually
many
can.
parts on one of those mics, and although I've never put one together all the way, I've modified some mics. A few years back, I'm sure you're familiar with the Rode NT2s.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
that was a microphone that they had to discontinue because it was such a close design to the 87
Oh,
Neumann.
wow. Wow, really?
Yes, to the 89. Sorry.
So
Uh,
they had a little heat pressed on
they
them.
got heat. Well, not much, not as much as the circuitry, but the housing itself. It
Oh,
looked
wow.
just like it.
And this was the thing, man. I was always like, man, why don't a company come out and do a U87 housing to the T, man? And
Well,
that's why.
that was it, and it's got a couple of filters. It's got a high pass, and it's got what's it called, a pad,
Okay.
and then you can switch it from Omni to cardioid.
Nice.
So it's
Nice.
fairly useful. A lot more useful than just a stuck, a preset pattern.
Right.
And but I had read that it had a couple of mods that people did aftermarket, and one of those websites that does the other clones has have parts in them, and one of the parts was the capsules that these guys have with instructions and everything. So I went and grabbed that kit and made this my clone, and it sounds a lot better than this a Rode did. So it's not doesn't sound quite like a Neumann, but
Pretty daggum close. Yeah.
hmm a lot better than the Rode did, and the Rode sounded pretty decent already.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Isn't that something, man? Well, do they make one that you can get I don't know, is it the Elam 251? Do they make
These guys do, yeah. These Mike and Mod has a 251 clone also.
that's the one that I want to do, man.
Yeah,
That's
they have a clone of the 87. They have a clone of the 47. They have a clone of the 251 and the C12.
nice. I wonder how much that package on the 251 costs.
I
I
think the
guess.
251 runs something like $800 or something like that. €800. So it's probably like closer to $900 or something like that.
Okay, well that's not bad, man. Considering if you were gonna go out and buy the daggum thing,
Hmm.
and if it's pretty close,
No, they compare very favorably with pretty much anything up there at, two, three, four times the price.
man. Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm gonna get on that. I'm gonna get on YouTube and see if I can find them.
No, here,
Actually, actually,
Mike. Let me see if I can just write it in here. And mod.com. That should work.
okay, yeah, I see it. I see it, man.
And like them, there's a lot of different companies, but these guys are based in Europe. Um, and there's a couple other companies that actually build Neve preamp clones that I've had my look on.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
not by
and
this company.
not this company, a different
Okay,
company in the UK that builds Neve clones. Like
so it,
500 series size stuff like that. That's nice and compact.
right, 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 right. Do you like the 500 series stuff? I mean, it's just
Well, it's a matter of saving room.
yeah,
And
and
if I can put it in a small, in a three size rack and
right,
fit in 16 units or 8 units, whatever it fits, I'm all for it.
right.
This one company, I forget the name of it right now, but I'll send it to you later. They have, yeah, it's basically all the controls of a 1272, but it's all miniature switches. The phase switch is a tiny switch. There's nothing really large. It's a small unit, for a 500, but it's full featured. And they have another one that has the EQ if you want a DEQ option, or just bare bones with just your gain, phantom, phase, and output, and maybe a bias switch. But that's about it.
Yeah, and the idea that you can just jump, everything's right there, like you say, you
Hmm.
know, from one to the
And the cool thing is that it has the legit components,
hmm.
and it costs around $300. Because a kit you've built it yourself.
Right. Nice. Yeah, because if you were to go out and buy that stuff outright, you'd
Hmm.
spend thousands, you know.
And
So
once again, it also looks kind of cool because it has that funky gray color
yeah,
and the red knobs and whatever. And some of the other brands just don't put that much effort in the look. And
right.
I'm kind of a sucker for that.
Me
You know.
too. Me too. I like it. It needs to look good, and the knobs need to feel good on there, man.
Hmm.
The switches and all that stuff. It needs to feel like
Exactly.
it's the real deal. It's you're not playing with a little toy.
Hmm.
But the UK, man, the UK, they seem to be doing a lot of mod stuff now, huh? I mean, they seem to be. Is this
Well,
something?
they've always been tweakers. They
Okay.
always like to mess around with stuff, and they obviously they've that's where a lot of the big companies came from with the big console designs.
Yeah. So what
So.
board? But what board was you telling me about the other day, man? You showed me a board,
Hmm.
and you sent a picture of someone rehearsing, getting ready, and his vocal coach was in there.
Oh, that's the Tree Audio console. Tree Audio is a company that builds tube consoles, and the Tree console is based on the old Universal Audio design.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they're basically modular. They have a basic frames. They have a couple different sizes. But if you want something special, they'll build it. Like the one we took to Jamaica was basically a 32 track console, and then it had an expanded bay on one side with we asked for summing mixers on one side, kind of like to use them as subgroups, because the universal audio design is not a subgroup design. It's just you pan your left, your right, or you can send it to master, and that's it.
Right. Right.
But he asked for a couple of extra things for it, and had a couple of inboard compressor and stuff. And that was Rob Sforboni. He spec'd the board, and then the one that he bought for his new place that I told you that he bought from Henry Hirsch is getting that same brand console but wraparound style.
Nice.
Yeah,
And that
I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, man. You know you're gonna like that. Is he putting that in his house, or is that just something he's
Well,
gonna?
he lives right now. I don't think he's moved yet. He told me he's moving. He lives about 20 minutes away in Westport, Connecticut,
Okay.
right near Keith Richards. He lives up there too. Um, and he's moving to Hudson, New York, which is I would say maybe 45 minutes northwest of there, and back in New York State. And he bought Henry Hish's house when he used to live up there,
Oh wow.
and with his studio, which is apparently where he recorded a lot of the Lenny Kravitz at some point.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, and I was checking out some of them tracks you sent me, man.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool, man.
Oh, that's from the gig that I told you about from Vegas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
you were behind the board on that one, right? I mean, you
I
were in
no,
there.
I was one of the technicians. The guy mixing Lenny, I can't remember his name right now, but he's obviously very talented. I think he's
Yeah,
a gentleman from South Africa. But no problems there. It was an excellent gig. We were
yeah.
just interface. He was just They were the entertainment for that event for that day, and we set up that part of the room, and they interfaced with us. They sent us the audio, and I just happened to be able to pick it up off the Dante network, and me able to make my own mix. So that was nice.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. That's really kind of cool. So Dante, when did Dante stuff actually come out? When did their stuff
I
actually?
would say started making an introduction. I would say around 2012, around
Okay.
that time, and then slowly more and more manufacturers latched onto it and launched basically their own way of interfacing with
Right.
Dante.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
digital protocol.
Yeah. It's nice though to be able to have that. I mean, 30 years, 40 years ago, who would have thought, right? Those guys,
It would have worked too.
yeah,
It would have worked, but again, technology wasn't we had the cables, but we didn't have the technology behind it.
right. And you were telling me about how live sound has changed, Oh, well, what if
Quite a
we
bit.
do this? What if we have some mains out front where we control all that and
Quite a bit.
they can have their mix, we can have our mix and
Hmm.
everything's good.
Yeah, I was
That's
just listening to a podcast just now, and the guy that was being interviewed is the guy that used to do sound for Frank Sinatra. And he was just saying that it was like revolutionary when somebody said, "We're going to do two different sound systems, one
wow.
for the people on stage and one for the people in the audience." And, there was like, people,
What?
brains were all over the place.
Right, right. Yeah, man. Oh, and how times have changed. But you know what? If you go back and you listen to some of the old recordings, man,
Hmm.
and you hear that noise in there and you hear that big fat sound, what's amazing is when everything went digital,
Hmm.
how they were trying to add the noise back to it to
Exactly, yeah.
to the sound to get what they've been, why does this sound like this? So yeah, adding noise to that.
Hmm.
Wow, who would have ever thought that? That's like taking one step forward to take one step back.
I knew a few older guys that claim to have said that before it had ever happened. For
Oh
instance,
wow.
that they said it back in the 70s as one day we're going to have to add the noise back in.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Because back then, with tape machines, you had all these denoising machines.
Mhm.
The noise floor of tape was still pretty high. So
Yeah.
you had the DBX noise reduction machines that were traditionally used for radio, and then people start using them in cascade and series for tape machines. So in essence, you end up doing one stage of removal and then a second stage of removal.
Wow. Wow. So do you add anything? Did y'all add anything to some of the tracks that y'all recorded?
Sometimes it
Yeah.
depends on if it needs something.
Mhm.
Sometimes if maybe some toms need a little bit of a thing, but it's more like it's a really at that point it's more like an aesthetic choice.
Right. Right.
It's neat because now you can the equipment and live sound allows you to do that.
Right. So y'all recorded everything in 192? Did the tracking and whatnot? Just out of
That
curiosity.
stuff was 48K. The stuff that
48K.
I sent you for the Oxford was all
Yeah.
98K. The
Okay.
stuff that I sent you acoustic, that was
Mhm.
96K.
So do you think someday that they're going to actually be able to get what you and I hear in the studio? I mean, we track it. I mean, 192, 48. I like to
Hmm.
track it 48. But all that goes down. by the time it hits an MP3 player, that's not those guys aren't hearing what you and I are hearing in the studio. You know.
We try for the best. What the audience does is really not, unfortunately, our problem. At
I
this
know.
point, I mean, we have no control over that. That's why it's kind of doubly our responsibility to make sure that our stuff sounds the best as possible, or
I
not
know.
our stuff, because again, it's really never our stuff.
Right.
That the music sounds as best as it can, and it's a
Exactly.
message ultimately that the musicians are trying to put out.
So I'm hoping, personally hoping that they can get MP3s to sound like just a little warmer, maybe as if I'm listening to an old album or something, without all the pops
Mm.
and clicks,
Well, I mean, as a reference, the two songs that I showed you that were recorded on the Oxfords were MP3s that I sent you.
and it sounded beautiful.
It sounded fine, right?
But I wasn't listening through. Yeah,
Right, you're not listening to your monitors and stuff, but even then, it's still, I'm sure, it's going to sound just fine. And to give you even a reference, it was recorded on the Oxford digitally at 48K.
yeah. That Oxford. I bet you missed that baby, huh? You
I
missed
do.
that.
I
Yeah,
do.
man. So what happened to that board? They just haul it off?
Oh, we when Mick decided to move to Los Angeles, again, I was telling you that I was in touch with other people that own Oxfords, and one of them was Ed Tetro at the Peabody in Johns Hopkins, and I suggested to Mick that we propose to the Peabody that Mick um, donate his console
Oh wow.
for tax papers and all that,
Right.
and they said sure, no problem. So the kick was that they would come and pick it up themselves.
Wow.
That was no problem. How did we do it? We said, well, you make it into a student event.
Excellent.
You grab, I don't know, go by grade, get your 15 best students, and make sure that they want to do it, and they make that they know they're going to be lifting some gear and going to a situation where you're going to be meeting some prominent people, and that's it. Show up with the truck, show up with the people. They came over, they got the racks, they have the studio. We opened it up. I'll send you pictures. It was pretty cool. I had never seen it disassembled, so it was interesting too from that perspective.
Wow. And so what is Mick actually using now for his mixing
He's
board? You got
now using at home. He has the full blown Avid SL6
wow.
or X6L. Sorry, it's got the opposite name on from the live sound version.
Yeah. Wow. And do you know what albums he's done since he's gotten that board or
With that, specifically with that console, I'm not totally certain because some of the bigger projects, he goes to Conway or he goes to Capitol to do. If he has the option to go to a real studio to do it, he goes. But
yeah.
there's a lot of them that he has done at his house. I'm not certain exactly which ones.
Yeah.
But if you visit All Music and look at his credits, at least for the last 15 years, most of them were probably done there. Um, I'm trying to. I mean, not
And
specifically. Oh well, no. I'll tell you. There's the one Celine Dion there that I know that he finished mixing with headphones because he called me from the hotel to thank me about how good those sounded.
wow. Really?
Yep,
What? How good what sounded? The
the
headphones?
headphones. Yeah, because I had given him the I told him about the headphones.
Okay. And he loved them.
Yeah, he was kind of tired of the Sonys. He was a Sony guy because everything Sony had, they threw it at him,
Yeah.
and he was just kind of looking for something different because also I think his Sonys were crapped out. And I've been using these Audio Technica's ATH M50s for a very long time.
Okay.
And he picked up a pair and he was like, "Yeah, it sounded great. Nobody complained about the mix, so let's go."
He loved it, huh?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
so
he finished in the hotel
wow.
because he
What
it's that's when he was traveling back and forth doing the Daft Punk album.
nice. So does he or do you reference on different monitors
Oh yeah.
other than your headset? So you'll
When
go
I'm mixing here at home and studio stuff, I don't use headphones at all, unless
yeah.
it's something that I cannot figure out.
Okay.
It has to be pretty extreme. Live, I exclusively use headphones,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Yep.
not always. I don't wear them. It'll just it's just for cueing stuff, and and EQing here and there all the time, filtering returns and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what's Mick's latest thing that he done? I mean, I can find out. I can look up. Do you know? Oh,
Latest.
yeah.
I'm
And what?
not certain, but of fame, of as of late, he. I don't know that he was. I don't think he was nominated for anything this year, but award winning, it was Daft Punk. The what's it called? Random Access Memories. He mixed that whole thing and recorded about 80% of it.
Nice.
And then after that, he was nominated for Janelle Monáe a couple years ago. Um, and I mean, he's done from. I think he did what's it called? Chick Corea album. He's still doing a lot of different genres, so you're gonna find him doing a lot of stuff. He did a record from my buddies from Panama also,
Yeah, you were.
Senor Loop.
Yeah.
I did the second and third. I mastered their second and third albums.
No.
What else has he done? Let me pull up the
And do you know what board he did that on? I mean, in the studio. I
for
mean,
Daft Punk. He used the Neve R8 that they have at Capitol Room A.
okay.
And oh no, actually no, not at Capitol. Capitol they recorded the orchestras. They mixed that at
Nice.
Conway
Nice.
Studios, also on the Neve R8.
Neat. Yeah. Do you like that board?
I've never used it, but it's a Neve, so I'm sure it's going to be
Yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And you were telling me the old tridents. You like the old tridents. What do you?
What is it
Which?
that we had? The guy had an 88B. It was pretty nice. It
Yeah.
wasn't terrible. And then later on, I had a small studio with this guy, and he purchased an Orem console. John
Okay.
Orem owned or worked or something. He'd had something to do at Trident for a while, so the consoles were decent,
Yeah.
but they had really shitty workmanship. Uh, it didn't really sound that great until we got a new power supply made by some guy in England, and then I wired it together, and it sounded really good after that.
Really. Really.
Yeah,
What the preamps or the EQ?
the
What
power supply made the console sound a lot
sound
better. It
good?
was That's
Yeah.
how shitty the original power supply was.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it's we weren't the only ones, and the guy's well known. At least those consoles, they sounded good until they didn't.
Right. Right. And then so who? I guess somebody took over that company now, and it's not the same as the old ones or
No,
whatever.
he's still Orem. Trident, I think, is a different company. I think he's not involved in it anymore. But Orem is still John Orem. I'd stay away from Orem stuff.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
good as it sounds,
Yeah.
maybe it's like a preamp, a two-channel preamp. Okay, maybe, but the
Yeah.
consoles have a lot of trouble with them.
Oh wow. Wow. But a lot of times y'all wouldn't even use the preamps in the console, correct? I mean, y'all would just
No, on the Orem, it's something that's why you get the console. They're known for that in the EQ, so that's why we had
yeah.
them. And in that instance, my partner also had purchased old Ampex 400 reel to reels. We had
Yes.
16 tracks of it, so that
Nice.
that was it worked really well in that context.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You and I were talking about some of those old 2-inch tapes and
Hmm.
1-inch tape and whatnot. I don't know, man. I just really like that sound of tape, man.
It's tempting, and again, if money wasn't an issue, I'd probably invest in it. There's a lot of really nice solutions these days that take a lot of the hurt of doing 2 inch. You
Right.
know, there's
And
there's systems that integrate with Pro Tools that give you that sound without having to ruin your tape in essence. So it's
ex-
not.
ex- exactly, or your pocketbook too. But I was going to
No,
ask.
well, it's pricey. If you
Oh,
look, if you ever heard of the clasp system, it's not cheap, but it does what it
does
intends to do. Yeah,
oh wow.
I'll send you a link. It's I think they still make it.
What about so would you say that the plugins are getting better at emulating?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
people, they're trying to keep up with the advance of the actual computers. Computers are processing a lot more information, so the
S-
processing has to become better.
Yeah.
Sample rates are getting better, and the
Better.
perception of and expectations of people regarding the quality of sound are slowly gaining, but they still want something that sounds better and better.
So do you like because you were telling me, man, you were telling me you said, I like the UAD1 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, "Oh man, I had the UAD1." Okay, this was way back. And do you still have that in a
I
computer
still have
somewhere?
it's still installed on my Hackintosh, but it's obviously not working anymore
Okay.
because they
Okay.
didn't support them after a while.
Right,
But I
right.
even still have the box and everything.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a dead computer here too, and it's
No,
in there.
the computer works. It's just the card is no longer
Oh,
valid.
oh wow,
Yeah, that computer has still Pro Tools 10 HD.
nice,
Actually,
nice.
both my desktops have 10 HD on them.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah.
So the universal audio stuff. Do you have any wave stuff that you work
Oh yeah.
with?
Yeah. So
Because
I in these on the older computers, these were actually given to me by Mick, and he was gracious enough to share all his licenses with me up to 10. So in these computers, I have everything waves, and on my uh, regular computer, my 12, my Pro Tools 12 system, I have, I'm not as many, but a good amount of stuff too.
yeah, yeah. Do you like working with waves? I mean, their stuff.
They're getting better.
Yeah.
I'm still on the fence about their ambient stuff.
Okay.
I don't use it unless I really have to,
Yeah,
or
yeah. I know.
or if I have to save processing power or something like that.
Right.
Same with the compressors. If I need something to give me a little boost or something like that, but it needs to be compression, and I have very little processing power available, I'll go for a C1 or something.
Yeah, yeah, their reverbs and stuff like that. I'm just not 100% sure I'm, impressed
Hmm.
with that either, to be honest with you.
Actually,
It
the one that I am using that is waves is the Abbey Road plates and the chambers. Those I
I've g-
like a lot.
I've
I like
got the
those both.
yeah, I got those two. I got those two. I
Yeah.
haven't played with it a whole bunch, but I do have those two. I was gonna ask you also because do you like to print with delay on external piece, or you add that
Mm-mm.
in later? Yeah,
No, I like to keep everything live
yeah,
because a
yeah.
lot of times printing,
Then
if you're not
you're stuck.
careful, it can give you the wrong. You can print the wrong response.
Right. The wrong delay time and
Hmm.
everything. Yeah, definitely. Well,
And I
but
don't like being stuck to anything I can't fix.
I know, and if you print with it, you're stuck. You,
Hmm.
you have to sing the vocal track over. Um, but yeah, some of those wave plugins, man, I really dig. What about the EQ? They've got an EQ that's nice that I like to use. I can't remember which one it is.
They
It's a
have a
blue.
number of things that's decent.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't bring
So
anything. Yeah, but yeah, I mean they have a lot of things are really useful again, but like anything in moderation, it's the best way.
yeah. So what plugins do you favor the most, or tell me just maybe one or two that you really like using?
Well, I mean, really, it comes down to a lot of times, just massaging the frequency. So it comes down to one, really saving resources, and to me, to do that, you have to use the simplest versions of everything. So I would say that the EQ plugin is one of the most used things for a lot of different functions. Really, not just filtering, not just EQing actual instrument or vocals or things like that, but sometimes you bring in say a one band EQ instance just to so you can boost something a little bit,
Right, right.
or you can use the filter in that section as well if you
Yeah.
can't do it anywhere else. So there's a lot of different versions of ways of doing things.
Right, right. Yeah, and then that's what makes it so fun,
Hmm.
is there's so many was that you telling me about that multi-band compressor the other day, or was I
Oh, the
talking to
LA-22. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's in one of the pictures that I sent you. It's in one of
Okay.
those racks. There's two of
Okay.
those in there.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
it's
Yeah.
the Uri LA-22, which is from the Uri company after Bill Putnam sold it to somebody else.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, did y'all have any Yuri stuff in your studio? In y'all's studio?
I have
Some
one
of
of
the
those.
old comp-
I have one of those units here, and Mick still uses those.
Nice.
Yeah, he still uses the LA-22 whenever unless he's got rid of it since. I mean, his system is still hybrid, but it depends on, he'll bring in one unit one day and one unit the next day. I know the only thing that is still hybrid that he uses is the Bricasti reverb.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I
That's
really,
consistent.
yeah, all the time.
Hmm.
I really like that. I really like the LN, man. The 1176 LN.
Hmm.
I guess that came out after the Yuri.
Well,
Sometime
the ones that I show you in those racks are probably the
mhm,
earlier version,
early.
the
Yeah.
the, the ones with the blue face,
Yeah.
and those did sound really really good.
Really, really good. Well, that's what Bill was involved in, right? I
Hmm.
mean, senior. Yeah. Wow, man.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, some really, really cool stuff, man. And all those microphones, man, you can't get enough of them.
Oh yeah, that you saw the
You know?
pictures of the big C24, the AKG.
Yes.
That one's from the 70s, and he got that in the early days of the internet. He used to be like, a big. He's like a big geek, and when you were first able to go online, he would go after hours, go online or whatever and chat with random people. And one time he found some random guy, and this random guy had something. He had a recital or something that he wanted mixed, and Mick was like, "Yeah, I'll mix it for you," and the guy gave him the microphone as a payment.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow. He was like, oh man.
yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Did y'all?
Mick know what he was getting. The
Yeah.
guy didn't. I don't think he really he had purchased that microphone to record that whatever it was that he mixed.
Wow. Wow.
So he was
What a
like, "Yeah, I'll give you that for that, I guess."
what a
A lot,
jewel.
yeah, a lot of times people don't know what they have. I mean, at one time I worked in this synagogue and they gave me two 421s.
Wow.
They were like, "Oh, we got all this old equipment here. If you want to take it, take it. If you don't, just let us know."
Wow.
Hmm.
I know,
Another
man.
another time, I do work for some of the private schools around here, and one of them is the French American School of New York, just a couple of towns away. And they had a big flood a few years ago because of the hurricanes, and their campus was flooded 6 feet above the water line of this creek that goes next door to the school. So everything was ruined. They called me one day and they're like, "Hey, Dennis, we got a bunch of equipment lined up here next to the dumpster. You're welcome to look at it. If not, we're gonna dump it. If you see anything that you might save, take it." Let me show you. How do I save it? Change the view on this thing. Oh,
Nice.
oh yeah, it does work here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh well, it's actually covered with papers right now. But at any rate, I have a Roland XV88 keyboard.
Wow. You got to be kidding me.
It was underwater for about 4 hours. It had soot and dust and mud. It was brown on the inside, and I took it to the studio with me and disassembled it. And over 3 days, I cleaned everything, and it's perfectly functional today.
That's amazing, man.
And
You
I had
got
a
all
couple.
that. You,
Yeah, I had a couple other things. I think I had a couple of wireless units that I also salvaged, and I forget what else I got out of there. But it was, it helps to know how to open things up and clean
yeah.
things up.
Yeah. Definitely, man. Definitely. You found your little jewel right there, didn't you? How long
Hmm.
did it take you to clean it? Three
About three,
days?
four, 3, 4 days.
Yeah. And it
But
was
it's one of those things we had a lot of times in the studio. In the studio, we had a lot of time. Once we set up the mix for him, for Mick, for instance, those days, once he got going, you pretty much had just administrative stuff to do, or going into town to pick up dinner, or make up the fancy sausages outside, or mix up the drinks before we print at the end of the night, or cut up the lemons for the tequila.
right.
Those were the those were
The good
my
days.
duties as an assistant after the mix was set.
Right.
Then when he was done, we would print, then we would drink, and then we would make labels. I think it was, yeah. A lot of times we have to ship stuff, so we make the labels the same night.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, there was just a lot to do. Need hands to help get her done.
Well, it
But
was
when
two in those days. It was two. It was myself and another assistant. We both took different tasks.
Wow.
And it wasn't, do nothing after setting up every day. A lot of times we have different other things. We would be working on other sessions, or working on, say, prepping the session for the next day,
Mm-hmm.
because Mick likes to see Pro Tools sessions appear in a specific order. So a lot of times people don't have the same habits and things look all over the place. So we make sure that things appear the way that he likes,
Mm-hmm.
and get everything, get nominal levels, turn up automation, all the stuff that people forget to do when they prep a session for mix.
Right, right. And man, so I guess you do the double check, you
We
know,
do double and
me-
triple, yeah.
right, measure twice before you cut.
Hmm.
Wow,
And we don't cut unless we have to, really.
exactly. Wow. Interesting, man. A lot of good information tonight, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate you stopping in, man.
anytime.
Yeah, we're gonna do it again, right?
Absolutely, man.
All right, man. So on a personal thing, man, how was the birthday today, man, with your
Oh, we had
son?
a great time. We went
Yeah.
around looking at the Christmas lights and stuff, and as soon as we get up here, we're gonna do the cake.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome, man. Well, you enjoy your night, man. And thank you so much for joining in, Dennis. I really appreciate it,
my
man.
pleasure.
And we'll do it
We'll do it
again.
again. Absolutely.
Sounds good, man.
All right, man. Good
All
night,
right.
everybody.
All right. Good night, everybody. Bye
See
bye.
you, man.
Thanks. All right. Bye bye.